No Men November is over at the domestic box office, and Godzilla has stomped in with pure, unbridled, not just masculinity, but humanity. The Walt Disney Company, meanwhile, is struggling after CNN now is even calling November Slowvember. That's right. Even despite the fact that Strange World was so bad and so devastating to the box office last year, this year's November was actually even worse. And that all comes down to the Marvels and Wish. But if you thought Wish was going to see a turnaround in the next month, well, think again. Those legs that many said it would have, it doesn't. And it may be so catastrophic that even Bob Iger must be embarrassed by now. Well, folks, as Bruce Almighty might say, it is a beautiful day out there. We're so happy to have each and every one of you. It is not, however, a beautiful day for the Walt Disney Company. Bob Iger is probably deeply embarrassed, dare I say humiliated, by the box office for Wish. Yes, we are approaching Strange World levels here, and perhaps it could get worse. Joining us to talk about it is L.W. Ghost, Floral from Under a Rock, and Tommy Tables. Gentlemen, welcome back to the channel.
Happy to be here. Happy to be anywhere.
Thank you.
I appreciate as a ghost, you know, I have my my options, but
just wafting from place to place.
Yeah.
There, Mr.
I have no hat box, by the way. I want to make that very clear.
I thought you were just a floater.
Yes.
Oh. Well, let's get into something that is not floating, but is sinking like a rock, and that is Wish. This out of ScreenRant by Brennan Klein. Wish box office second weekend drop is even worse than Disney's biggest 2022 flop. And that's why if this holds its trajectory, this will perform worse than Strange World, which was quite the embarrassment for Disney. Disney's Wish, not Witch, which already had an underwhelming opening weekend, posted a week 2 drop even worse than the studio's previous Thanksgiving flop. And remember, this is new to them. They haven't had Thanksgiving flops until the past 2 years. When it comes to people saying, oh no, Elon Musk, he's going to lose so much money on Twitter for making Bob Iger mad. It doesn't come anywhere close to how much they've lost in November, just at the box office alone for Disney. So I think apples and oranges.
What Disney's lost in November is probably the loose change in Elon's couch.
That's a good point. Maybe he should look under the chair on the Cybertruck and find that. Wish has stumbled even further in its second weekend at the box office. The Disney movie is the only animated outing during the studio's centennial celebration, providing an origin story for their iconic wishing star. I actually don't think it is an origin story for the wishing star.
Not even slightly, no.
It's just an activist film. In its opening weekend, the animated musical only earned $19.7 million, falling both to number 3 on the chart over Thanksgiving weekend behind the historical drama Napoleon and the young adult holdover title, The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which had opened the previous weekend. Now, to specify why that was really, really bad, you've got one film, which is a niche demographic film, and then you have another, which is likewise also aimed at a smaller demographic. We're talking about Hunger Games is aimed primarily at women, and it was in its second week, and yet both of those films defeated Wish, which should be aimed at just about everybody out there. Per Deadline, the Wish box office has not picked up after its disappointing opening. In its second weekend at the domestic box office, the movie is projected to take in an additional $7 million. This marks a 64% drop for the animated movie, which is even worse than the 58% drop of Strange World, last year's Thanksgiving release from Disney, which only ended up earning $73.6 million worldwide, while boasting a production budget estimated somewhere between $135 and $180 million. Now, I also want to say, as we go to the numbers.com, that actually, when it comes to Wish, you're going to hear some incorrect reporting out there. I believe the numbers that Film Threat is reporting. That's, of course, Chris Gore and Alan Ng, and they have spoken with insiders at Disney. And I believe that when they say that, they have integrity. I think they're some of the best journalists out there, some of the best analysts out there. They say that Wish actually cost $250 million, which is mind-boggling but must be true. Now, that means this film needs to make a lot of money, maybe $700 million to break even when you count in all of the marketing that's got to be associated with this thing. However, folks, as this video is releasing, we don't yet have the weekend numbers, obviously, because this video is releasing Sunday morning. And, well, we won't know the full weekend numbers until Monday or Tuesday at best. That said, the projection that you heard was a 67% drop from first weekend to second weekend. What we're seeing on the ground in reality could actually be worse. When you look at Friday to Friday, this is an 80% drop. And for the Fridays, Wish dropped out of the top 5, defeated by Trolls Band Together. And we'll start with LW Ghost on this, but this is so funny to me. This little studio, Angel Studios, is beating Wish again. I think Disney's had their fill of Angel Studios this year. I'm thinking they're not feeling too happy about the angelic entity that just keeps beating them.
And as members of this channel know, you're in my favorite movie of the week, the month, the year. Godzilla -1 is not only beating them all, it cost $15 million to make.
That's exactly right. And guess what else? When it comes to Godzilla and how much it needs to make a profit, well, Godzilla actually has already essentially earned a profit because it opened in Japan in November.
Yeah.
And it has already made a ton of money in Japan. It's likely going to make, I don't know, maybe it's going to make at least $100 million in the States. It doesn't have to make hardly anything to make a profit. It's already there.
We have to be fair to Wish in one way. We have to think about ancillary merchandise and stuff. And I noticed when Lorena did a walk around the whatever festival it is this week at Epcot, they're selling little Wish Star cookies. Now,
well, that'll make up for it.
I don't know what the profit is on one of those cookies, but, let's not count them out till they're out.
Lou, I thought you were going to go say that Wish, at least Wish was beating the Marvels.
Well, that's... You know what? That is the silver lining, isn't it, Disney? You are beating the Marvels. Flora, how many cookies you think it'll take to shore up a profit off of Wish?
Yeah, I really don't know. I'm still just flabbergasted that both the Marvels and Wish are doing so terrible and losing out to something like Trolls, which
Godzilla.
Well, no, see, Godzilla, that doesn't actually shock me as much. But Trolls, that shocks me. Because nobody that I know actually likes that. Like people are okay with it on Netflix kind of a thing, but no one actually cares about that series. So the fact that this series that no one actually cares about, they trust it more, right? And I think that's ultimately what this is showing, is what people actually are willing to trust.
It's less a vote for Trolls. It's a vote against, gee, I'm afraid of Disney.
Yes.
Well, let's show this to the audience out there. This gets worse because if you look at the total gross, $36 million for Wish, $68 million for Trolls Band Together, and you would say, well, that's okay. Wish is going to catch up because Trolls came out first. But that's not how that works when Trolls is beating Wish. It doesn't matter who came out first. Trolls Band Together looks to be increasing the lead rather than starting to let Wish catch up.
Well,
I want to show you guys.
It's the difference in that wonderful clip you keep showing between the ascent phase of the Ashoka jump and the descent phase. Which direction are you moving is the question between the two.
Well, I think they should have gotten in sync for Wish instead of for Trolls.
Yes, well. But let me show you guys this article because Mr. Ghost brought this up, and so we're going to touch on this. This is out of Variety by J. Kim Murphy and Michaela Z. Box office renaissance puts Beyonce on top with $11.5 million. Opening day, Godzilla -1 roaring to third. We only want one paragraph out of here because I want to show everybody why, when Godzilla performs the way it does, why we are, we're throwing accolades upon it, right? We're all in amazement. Here's why. In this paragraph, it says, it's an impressive start for a foreign language film with a minimal marketing spend. In other words, very little spent on marketing this thing. It's also completely in Japanese with subtitles, and yet, well, it's beating Wish. But here's the part that we were talking about earlier. The period piece of post-World War II Japan has earned some extremely strong reviews and sports a reported production budget of $15 million. Now, if you consider that Wish cost $250 million, well, that is, let's just say that you could make a ton of Godzillas for the cost of Wish. But more importantly, here's what it concludes with. Impressively economical considering all the destruction on screen, it has already earned $23 million in its native country where Godzilla blasted into theaters in November. Now, we're here to tell you it's not off theaters in Japan, so you can anticipate that it's going to cross that 30 million mark in Japan alone. And so that's what I'm talking about, that everything it makes in America is a profit, flat out a profit.
Yes.
So this is where, though, I think that it would be hilarious. I don't think it's going to happen, but imagine Godzilla -1 in all of the Western markets outside of Japan gets in the neighborhood of like 30 million, and Wish kind of legs out at maybe 45 at this point. That is a major slap in the face to Disney, because a film that is all subtitles beat out a family movie.
Well, here's my question, Pro, because I know that when it comes to the comparison between domestic and international box office, it's always a little bit deceiving because of the fact that, at least for North American, for Hollywood productions, they make much more money domestically than they would from the theaters abroad, especially in China. I'm just curious.
Somewhere around 55% typically, and that used to be the distributors, the big ones at least, used to get a higher percentage back domestically because they had a better contract with the theaters. That has changed post-pandemic, and so now it's about 55% that they take home domestically from their movies.
So I wonder if that figure would hold true for any box office that Godzilla makes going back to Japan, to Toho International. I don't know. I'm not.
Now that's a great question, Tommy, and I don't know the answer because I don't know the corporate tax rules for local films and their distributions in Japan. But I bet we can find that out, and we'll definitely be reporting on that later in the week.
There's something else to consider. The way these deals work with the theaters in America, the studio gets the lion's share in the first week or two, and it reverts back to the theaters as the run continues.
Right.
Well, if the run doesn't continue, the theaters are kind of left holding the bag, selling popcorn and hoping for the best.
And Lou, that's really where post-pandemic those contracts became less favorable for the studios, because prior to the pandemic, there were studios such as Disney that when they released Star Wars or they released a Marvel film, they would get something like 70% back.
Yeah, or
off
more.
Those first couple of weeks, and that has been pulled back dramatically now, and it's given the theaters significantly more leverage
because the track record doesn't make them willing to make that deal anymore.
Exactly.
If you went to them tomorrow and said, "But we've got a brand new, wonderful Star Wars movie," they'd say, "Yeah, fine, but."
And the other point of leverage too, Lou, is that the streaming services outside of Netflix don't make money. This is something that the average audience person, the average person on the street doesn't know, is that Disney Plus loses money every single quarter. It loses hundreds of millions, and in the past has lost in excess of $1 billion per quarter. So the movie studios desperately need the theaters because they need to turn a profit somehow.
As I keep harping, that loss figure for Disney Plus does not include the opportunity loss of if those movies they're putting on Disney Plus exclusively had been run on Netflix like the old days or Amazon, they'd be making millions and millions and millions in license fees.
Absolutely.
I have to say, I think that goes into the example that you and Jonas and VR had come up with, Pro, about, what was it, losing the equivalent of a Disney cruise ship every month or every quarter?
Yes, every quarter. Every quarter, they were essentially sinking a cruise ship was the amount of money they were losing on Disney Plus. They've got that down into the hundreds of millions of dollars now, so that's good. But it will take literally a decade. If they ever get to profitability, it will take a decade of crawling their way back into that. And some analysts now have given up on it.
And let's not forget that the big fact that they were open about in the 10K is that everything else, the cruise ships, the hotels, the theme parks, the merchandise, everything comes not from a 10-part series on Disney Plus. It all comes from theatrical films. So if you haven't got any that are doing well, you are killing all of those downstream revenue streams too.
Correct. Because these movies that Disney release, they're supposed to be ecosystems in and of themselves that drive profit for a decade, let's say, right? Think about The Little Mermaid releasing in the 1980s. Still to this day, driving huge merchandise sales. That's what that's what the investment is for. And so when you have movies like Strange World and Wish that they fall out of the gate immediately, that's nothing compared to what people were investing in for these movies in the past.
See, but this is my question, though. It seems like, so there's two things I'm noting here. It seems that the cruise ship being lost every month has actually accelerated overall, not just Disney Plus, but overall. right? Because we're seeing how they're just wasting all of this money on everything, like literally everything. And then secondly, if the movies that had come out were good, that would have actually, like, specifically thinking of like The Little Mermaid, as you just said, that would have increased the sales of the original '89 movie. So I'm just seeing the compounding losses. Overall, they might have pulled back on Disney or Disney Plus being less profitable than anything else, but it still seems extremely terrible.
Well, the funny thing is that Disney had said that they would reduce the losses for Disney Plus. And so I think that most investors had thought that meant that they would increase the revenues and thereby decrease the margin. Instead, what seems to have happened is they have radically cut the expenditures for Disney Plus, and of course that'll be felt in the next years, and that's how they are getting that margin lower, as well as using tax write-downs for terrible content like Willow, where you can never watch it again, and they're going to take the depreciated value off of that and then use that for accounting purposes.
And they've openly said they're trying to shift to more advertising support than subscription support.
Yes.
Well, if you're an advertiser, how much are you going to pay to back a movie that never made it in the theaters in the first place?
And you're going to have visibility when it comes to ratings beyond Nielsen. We're going to have to actually know how these things are performing.
Transparency, absolutely.
Now, I want to go to yes, Floral.
Just one last clarifying question. So, back in a month and a half ago, I think it's the last time Valiant referenced it, but talking about how Disney would take money out of one pocket and put it in the other hand.
So let me explain that.
Well, but this is if I can finish my thought, and then you can explain. It seems as though what they're doing is they're actually just shifting losses from one pocket to another. Would you say?
So what happens is Lucasfilm, let's say, puts out Indiana Jones: The Dial of Destiny, and it loses terribly. Okay, so massive financial loss there. In fact, up until the Marvels, it was the biggest financial flop in the history of cinema. Now, what happened subsequent to that is that Disney Plus, as a separate entity within Disney, but it's its own subsidiary, it purchases from Lucasfilm Indiana Jones and the rights for streaming, even though it's inside Disney. And so then Lucasfilm gets to, have a lesser amount that was taken out of it. And Disney Plus, there's an expenditure that they have to mark, although it's not fully public because they don't have to fully disclose all of this down into that kind of a resolution inside their filings with the SEC and for investors. Now, I want to go to what ScreenRant is suggesting might be going wrong, and we're going to analyze what these reasons are. We're going to see if we buy into this or not. Here's what it says. Although its week 2 drop has been more severe, it is worth noting that the new Disney movie's opening was $7 million higher than Strange World's $12.1 million, taken the same frame last year. Accounting for that difference, this means its second weekend gross is still about $2 million higher than Strange World's second weekend. Again, though, the weekend's not over, so I would tell ScreenRant to hold up on that until we get through the weekend. However, a Wish box office flop may still be unavoidable, especially considering the fact that its estimated production budget is in a much higher range, between $175 and $200 million, without accounting for publicity costs.
It may still be unavoidable. May.
Sorry, ScreenRant, but Film Threat has the real number, and it's 250.
I can just imagine some poor intern at ScreenRant, Friday night, and he's basically being screamed at by his boss, "Come on, figure out a way to spin this to be positive. Come on."
Well, we're not trying to be mean to ScreenRant or to the author here. We're just analyzing as best we can and as objectively as we can. We don't presume that ScreenRant is getting these things incorrect on purpose, nor do we presume that they may have had the information that Film Threat had. Here's some more that it says. There are quite a few possible reasons for the movie's disappointing box office returns. For instance, when Wish debuted on Rotten Tomatoes, it earned a rotten score that was the worst for a Disney animated movie in 18 years. It also comes at the tail end of a year that has seen general audience disinterest allow several major Disney releases to flop, including Indiana Jones, The Dial of Destiny, and Haunted Mansion. Shall we add, please, Ant-Man Quantumania, The Little Mermaid? Shall we add any more? Oh, The Marvels. That's right. The Marvels goes on this list as well.
And by the way, they didn't say general disinterest in Disney, which is the truth.
Yes,
They said
that's a good
general
point.
disinterest, like it applied across the board to everybody else.
No, totally agree. And here's
The
the worst
wonder of
one, I think.
words.
Good
The worst,
catch.
the worst excuse here is the Wish cast was also on strike with the rest of the Screen Actors Guild in mid 2023, fighting for fair pay. They refrained from promoting the movie until the strike ended on November 9th, less than 2 weeks before the premiere. However, that doesn't account for the fact that this weekend had a dearth of new wide releases, which could have helped it draw in bigger audiences. So even the author here tries the WGA and the help me out, guys. What's my other guild?
SAG-AFTRA.
SAG-AFTRA strikes. Tries that one, but even the author really can't do it. It's just too much.
And of course, that didn't keep them from running trailers and running ads on X and everywhere else.
Oh, but something else stopped them from doing that, and we won't go there.
Go fund yourself, Bob.
Go fund yourself. Oh, Floral.
Well, my
played.
favorite, and I mentioned to you guys before we started, my favorite line of this past week, and I wish I could remember. I think his name is Downey. A guy at one of the political punditries, he summed up his summation of the disaster that is Disney right now. He said, the guy that jumped naked into Small World at Disneyland the other day was on drugs. What's Bob Iger's excuse?
I love it. Absolutely love it. All right, well, guys, we have a very special moment now. This is going to be the last normal Cues from You, where members get to send in their own questions to the channel. We took a survey not too long ago, and we discovered that this was one of the perks that our members were willing to let go of to get some bigger and better things. And so we'll be announcing those Monday during the 50K subscriber celebration. So if you guys would join me, we'll answer these cues from the members out there. And who knows, maybe we'll bring this back at some point in the future. But after this week, we're going to transition to a new plan that I think folks will like better.
Before you do that, you gifted us, before we began tonight, with a sneak preview of the opening of that show. And folks, don't get there late. You'll miss it. It's special. It is special indeed.
Let's just say I'm being trolled.
It's sublime.
All right. Well, here are the questions we've got. So let's answer these as best we can. Cuban Superman, any relation to Mexican Iron Man, says, from all the rides and attractions that Disney has opened at the international parks, what are two that you wish they'd bring to Disney World that aren't currently there in some iteration? And I can tell you my two, and then if anyone else on the panel would like to answer.
Go for it.
From Tokyo Sea, or Disney Sea at Tokyo, I would say Sinbad's storybook Voyage would definitely be one that I would love to see. In fact, you could put that at the Morocco Pavilion in Epcot, and it would be amazing. And the other one, this is a little bit of a cheat, but it's not really. Cuban Superman, I would love to have Splash Mountain back, and it's currently at Tokyo Disneyland. So could we have that, please? I'd love it. It's the most popular ride in the world. So, gentlemen, any others that you might like to see at
when you talked
Disney
about
World?
in some iteration, I just watched, I guess yesterday, somebody did a ride-through on the new Zootopia ride at Shanghai.
Oh, we've got a story coming out on that one.
And you know what? There's a story about that that's amazing. It shows you how sloppy they are. But the ride itself looked really good. But
Yes.
it's a total redo, basically, of stuff that they've done before.
It's a reskin of Mickey's Runaway Railway.
Yeah.
For the most part, there are some changes.
I think I like it in ways better because it's not so stylized into that abstract version of Steamboat Willie. It's got some meat on the bones, let's say.
Totally
And
agree.
then can I count all of Disney Sea as an attraction and say,
Well,
here, please?
Probably
'Cause
the best theme park in
That's
the
the
world.
most.
Absolutely.
It's the most beautiful, gorgeous, amazing place. Go look at some of the walkthroughs where people just walk around and show you the exteriors and don't go on the rides. It'll blow you away. It'll blow you away.
It's incredible.
I've never
All right.
been to a theme park, so I can't comment.
What?
Wait a
Not
minute,
even
wait a
Canada's Wonderland?
You've never
That's
been to a theme park,
that's-
period?
That's an amusement park,
Oh.
Oh.
and I hate
okay.
I hate rides.
All right, folks, we're going to
Well,
need to...
they can make one based on Wish, but we'd have to say we are not amused.
We're going to have to do a GoFundMe to afford a trebuchet to fire Floral into a theme park of choice. All
I
right,
used to want to go to Disney.
Benny Turkoff says, would you rather have Disney fail completely or have them do a turnaround and start doing good content again? That's an excellent question. For me personally, I approach this much in the same way that if I saw someone who is acting very, very poorly, would I rather them turn around and do better? You bet. That's my goal with individuals, with communities, with cities, with towns, and yes, with corporations. Anyone disagree on the panel?
No, I just think of the fact that in the same vein, right, when someone decides to destroy and tank their life, sometimes the only way for them to turn around is for them to hit rock bottom, and I'm fairly confident that that's where Disney's at. They need to
Exactly what I was going to say. At this point, everybody says, well, "Why don't they just apologize and change?" Because nobody will buy it. Is why.
Yeah.
no.
Losing $500 million at the box office in a single month, I thought that was impossible. It is so ridiculous that you just can't believe it happened.
But you have
That's
to
gotta be rock
remember.
bottom.
You have to remember, Pro. That's not the disease. That's a symptom.
Yes.
It's not that the movie was bad and oh my God, it lost, or the 3 movies or the 5 movies or however many we want to count now. I've lost track. It's that their philosophy and their attitude is self-destructive and bad and contemptuous of their audience. And these are just the results.
I will say that I would not. I think if you if you say that failing completely means Disney basically goes under, and we lose Disney.
Right. They turn into Sears.
Yeah, I would not want that. But I do think that there has to be, as both Floral and Lou and you, Pro, have said, like there has to be some recognition of the fact that they have, or they will shortly hit rock bottom, and a bit of humility, basically.
Well, and
that's all that fans want. Like once you humanize yourself a little bit, once you actually say, you know what, we've made some mistakes, we're trying to do better, that'll bring back so many people. That's all that they're waiting for.
There's something else to consider too. Back in the days of the Bass Brothers and that whole conflict, it was, these guys will buy it and sell off the parts. Well, we just mentioned the movies are the theme parks, are the cruise ships, are the TV network, are the movies. This company, in a very special way, is extremely integrated. And anybody who said, well, I'll just go in the theme park business, you can have the rest of it, would be lost. As opposed to, if for some reason Comcast said, well, we're going to get rid of NBC, which I kind of think they might do. It's the sum of its parts. So even if they fall apart and Peltz or somebody else takes over, they got to fix it all one way or another. They can't just fix a little piece of it.
And the only thing I would add on to that too, though, is basically what you need is like customer reconciliation. And the only way you can have reconciliation in a situation like this is complete and utter repentance, which means that everything that is currently there is, in terms of the people, that can't exist anymore. You need a drastic shift. The whole leadership structure needs to be completely and utterly dismantled and shifted, because people need to see the actual change, because otherwise everything's just going to be a disingenuous apology.
As we saw, you're absolutely right. As we saw from the revelations of these people that have been talking to the Film Threat guys, the rod is very deep.
Yeah.
Yes.
The rod is not just, well, get rid of these 12 people. It's probably 1,200 people or 12, I don't know how many thousand people that all have this warped view of the world and have been indulged and encouraged. And they can't just suddenly tomorrow say, oh, okay, I'm reformed, I'm not doing that anymore, because it's part of their personal religion, their personal faith.
On that note, Kevin Feige had said something a little while back, which has always stuck with me, where he basically said, we have to get a bit better at being a bit more subtle with our progressive messaging in these films, right? So it's not like that right there shows there's no repentance. There's just, okay, we've got to be a bit more sly.
Sneakier.
Well, now, the comparison between Strange World and Wish makes that clearly impossible, because Strange World was announced to the world, we're going to show you, and it died. And Wish was not announced overtly that way, and it died worse.
As C.S. Lewis put it, if you are heading in the wrong direction, going faster or smarter in that same direction does not get you back to the point you want to be.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Dustin Cincinnig, sorry about that, Dustin. Dustin says, I've always been pretty curious, how many videos can you make from one pro show? Well, Dustin, that's a great question. So the pro show typically picks up something like 15 to 25,000 views, and so that's wonderful. We have an attitude of gratitude here on the channel, and we're amazed that a small stadium of people is interested in watching the pro show, and that's fantastic. But that's long format. And so what we do is we break those videos apart into smaller clips then. Of course, not every part of the video is used, but some of the highlights are cut out so that people who are disinclined from watching long format can still get to enjoy some of the points we made. And typically we make about 5 clips out of that. We don't put out a clip on the day of the pro show, and we don't put out a clip on Sunday evenings usually. But the other days of the week, we try to use a highlight clip. Almost always those come out at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. However, if there's a scheduling issue or some other kind of situation where we need to put up a highlight at a different time, we sometimes do. But 90% plus of the time, those clips, those highlights come out at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Great question.
I have zero knowledge of the demographics of your viewership, but I'm willing to bet that a lot of people who watch the whole show say, I'd like to see that part that they did about X topic again, and love the fact that they can re-access it without trying to fast forward through to get to the part they think they missed.
Absolutely. And so we attempt
So
to...
it's not just new, it's new people who say, that was good, that was part of a bigger show, when's that bigger show? And then they tune into the pro show. And vice versa, it's people who saw the pro show and said, I got to show my friend Bob this part about Wish or whatever it is, and doesn't want to go through the whole show to get there. So it works both ways.
And the other fascinating thing is that when we do those clips, those highlights, sometimes by the time that highlight is about to come out, something related to that same piece of news will hit the wire, and Jonas will message me, call me, text me, whatever, and say, hey, you actually have to go add to that highlight now, so we're going to add your analysis of this new piece of news. And so sometimes it's more than just a highlight. Fork 501 says, if Disney never axed Marvel's Creative Oversight Committee, do you think we would be seeing a vastly different Marvel today, or would Bob have just tried replacing the members with his own henchmen? Guys, what do you think about that one?
Well, as a huge comic book aficionado, I would say yes and no, because when you look at the committee itself, it was comprised of a number of people who, well, for example, just a quick look at on Wikipedia saying you got Feige, you've got Louis Desposito, Marvel Comics President of Publishing Dan Buckley, Marvel's Chief Creative Officer Joe Quesada, and then writer Brian Michael Bendis, and then Marvel Entertainment President Alan Fine. So of those names, a few of them stand out. The first is Joe Quesada, who was the Marvel Chief Creative Officer, and he basically revived Marvel in the 90s when it was just essentially in bankrupt, about to basically keel over. And he was able to reinvigorate the comic book franchise. He was able to, start getting these characters back on their feet. Daredevil, Iron Man, all of a sudden focusing mainly on quality. And Joe Quesada himself was an artist of some renown, less so as a writer. But he really, really helped bring Marvel Studios back up to a point where I think it became, attractive again. Now, on the other hand, Brian Michael Bendis is another writer who started off very strong, but he's also the guy who created Miles Morales. He's the one who went over to DC Comics afterwards and decided to take the wholesome adventures of Superman, Lois, and their young son John, and then take John and age him up into a teenage boy because he hates writing kids. A lot of the stuff, and he also created Ironheart, by the way. So I mean, a lot of I think Bendis's viewpoints line up, philosophically with that of Feige and the like. So would they have been able to prevent this downward slide? I don't think so. I think when Feige was able to wrest power away from Perlmutter, it was just the beginning of the end.
The only thing I would add to that would be the fact that Disney very much cares about its IPs. And so when Disney bought Marvel and they had all of those Disney IPs that replaced all the previous IPs that had other people's names attached to them, and by that I mean like Iron Man and all that, Disney does not want to pay other people to use those names. So they're going to use what is in their house so that they can keep the money in their house.
And the elemental part of this question is about, would Bob have just tried replacing Thou shalt have no other Bobs but Bob is the mantra of this company. And so to ask,
Brilliant.
would he try? No, he would succeed because, that's what he does.
Because where
Look
there's
at
a
the
Bob,
board. Look at the
there's a
board.
way.
Amazing. Well said. Jason Barnes. More live events like NASCAR and the NFL are being put on streaming services like Amazon. What are your thoughts on this as it requires people to pay more and get more subscriptions?
Can I answer?
Yes, go for it.
It's because they want people to pay more and get more subscriptions.
Yes, but I would say that based on how much the streaming services outside of Netflix are losing, I would not be shocked to see some of these streaming services merge together. And so I think there may be some constriction in the market, and we may have some consolidations there. So that might help.
That's the result of the intense competition for these things that's putting these people against each other and making the NFL and NASCAR and everybody else very rich as the prices go up. At some point, they got to say, "Hey, wait a minute, we're cutting our own throats here. Maybe we should get together and do this." I agree.
Absolutely. All right, from Colorin 81, Colorado. No questions from me today, but a huge thank you to you, Pro, and your team. Well, thank you so much. My journey into this culture war started when I posted online about how disappointed I had been with Disney and Lucasfilm after seeing The Last Jedi at my local cinema here in Brisbane, Australia. I was shocked and amazed at the hate I got for not liking that trashy film. After much defending my opinion, I found out much of the hate was coming from Lucasfilm staff. Up to that point, I had not been familiar with Bob Iger, nor with his political ambitions. I knew of George Lucas, but my introduction to Kathleen Caffeine Kennedy was during that infamous interview where George introduced her as his right hand at Lucasfilm sometime before he sold everything to Disney. Well, thank you for that quote. Folks, make sure you pause if you need to read more of that. I do want to say this last part here that says, Valiant Renegade and UWW Pro were recommended initially by YouTube, but now I access your content almost daily. And I just want to say back to you, Colorin 81 Colorado, well, we are thankful for you completely daily. So thank you so much.
Yep.
Monica's 845 says, with current budgetary restrictions from customers, what changes or adaptations are you expecting parks, Disney and competitors, to make positive and negative for customers? Well, one thing that I am noticing, and this is a bit probably not the response you were expecting. Universal Studios is being extremely aggressive. We've now seen details of what they plan to do in Texas with their theme park aimed at young children and families with young children, but also
Which is genius.
Dollywood is becoming somewhat of a national destination now for vacations. It's been voted, I think, as the #1 theme park 2 years in a row by major aggregators of those sorts of things like TripAdvisor. And so what is happening, I think, is that folks are beginning to go to other places other than Disney. And what Disney will have to do to adapt or change, I guess, if they ever want to get those people back, is they're going to have to expand and do new things and make their rides be like new again. Some of the stuff we're hearing about and we'll be reporting about in the coming weeks is not good. It's dilapidated in many ways.
Yeah.
All right. So from Kaitar Jakara, what do you guys think? Did I do okay with that one?
I think so.
Kaitar Jakara. Background info followed by 2 actual questions below. I have never been a collector of physical media, partly to keep my life declutterfied. I have on hard digital storage those few items that I highly value. The increasing censorship of TV and movies is very concerning to me. Networks were once required to warn you when something had been edited. Streaming services have no such restriction. Things are being altered without notice or recognition, leading to a loss of culture and history. I want to own what I buy and know what I bought is as it was made. How do you think the general public can successfully vote with our wallet to encourage the entertainment companies towards a more favorable situation? Are there any companies that focus on distributing uncensored, protected media art in an online form? All right, panel, any thoughts on that one?
Yes, there are such companies, and you've got to buy the physical media, and I would say get at it because a lot of it's going to go away. What about, what's it called, Kino Lorber and a lot of these collectors people who, especially, it seems like you can find the foreign films in that form much easier than you can American classics. But on the other hand, everything old is coming out of copyright, at which point It's open season.
Maybe that's why they're trying to eradicate physical media. But in the next 24 months, I anticipate that the big box retailers are going to look very different when it comes to providing you with physical media. So get it while you can.
I think we got to say goodbye to Floral right now.
Yeah, I got to get going.
All right, Floral. We will see you very, very soon. Thank you for being here.
Yep. No, thank you so much for having me. Go ahead, Tom.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, have a good one.
Yeah, you too.
Go rest your throat.
Yeah,
that's right.
So if you guys want to know why I sound like a weirdo, it's because I sang for an hour on a Christmas float in the cold. So there we go.
What song did you sing at the top of your lungs?
Oh, we sang 3 on repeat. O Come, Emmanuel, Joy to the World, and what was the other one? Angels We Have Heard on High.
Well, joy to the world to you as well, Floral. Go get some rest.
Alrighty. Stay out of trouble. Don't join gangs.
Thanks.
Ryer Goddard says, favorite Christmas holiday cookie or treat? Mine is Divinity Candy. There's a cake my mother makes. I don't know if it's even called I don't know if it qualifies as a cake or a pie or what it would be, but it's called Chocolate Delight. Ooh. And I love that stuff. So
gingerbread cookies.
I was about to say gingerbread too.
Well, now wait a minute. Are you guys? What about eggnog? Do you guys enjoy eggnog?
Yeah.
In small doses.
Yeah, small doses.
With large doses of something else added to it.
Yes.
I'm reminded of Clark in this situation with the little moose head cup.
It's funny because my 96-year-old mom, who just turned 96 on the 14th, God bless her, was asking me about bottled eggnog with a little booze in it to give to the guys who drive her around at the place where she lives. And we went looking around, and Trader Joe's had variations, and a few other places did, but I don't know. It's so rich and so thick that you don't want to have a lot of it, regardless. So
I'm only concerned about giving it to your drivers as a gift. That just seems
this is driving for their off time. Yeah, you got a point there. I hadn't thought of that. But then, heck, I put booze in the whipped cream I put on the hot gingerbread. So
there's going to be a police department somewhere that says, "All right, we've connected all the dots to these wrecked vehicles or these wrecked Uber drivers. They're all going to this one house." All right, let's see. We've got Indie Phantom. We love Indie Phantom. Cinemas have survived many existential threats in the past, but will they survive streaming apathy and extreme wokeness? I think they will. I think that theaters are being very creative, and these concerts like Taylor Swift and Beyonce have done, I think, have shown that theaters can think outside the box, and I'm excited about that.
Let me just say that with how much they charge for popcorn these days, I have no fear for their bottom line.
Right. You know, in the days when the cineplexes began, a lot of the big theaters got broken up into multiple small houses. I remember big old Art Deco houses on Hollywood Boulevard, the Stanley Warner Theater, which was this gorgeous old palace, and they took the balcony and made it into 3 smaller theaters. Now, with these concert films and other live shows being the thing that's maybe going to save them in this void, they're going to start tearing the walls down and putting them back together because those things play better in larger houses.
I have to say, I enjoy watching just about anything. And the bigger the screen, the bigger the theater, the better for me. So I enjoy it.
Yeah.
JB Spooky Review says, are there any spooky Disney Christmas specials or cartoons? Great question. Part of that will be decided by whether or not you classify The Nightmare Before Christmas as a Halloween or Christmas movie. Yeah. But also, I would say that the very first Santa Claus, I think it's Santa Claus is Coming to Town. I think that's the official title of it. It's a Walt Disney very early animation, and I find that one to be very creepy. So go look that up, JB Spooky Review. But I think it's creepy.
It's not Christmas, but it's certainly wonderfully spooky. Go look up The Skeleton Dance, which was one of the original Silly Symphony cartoons that Walt did.
There you go. Vic Saris. So does Disney SEC filing saying they know they're damaging themselves but won't change, and Lucasfilm has an entire third-party study saying they need to scratch everything allegedly. All these box office losses and park attendance, what else can Even Peltz bring to force change if they won't self-correct with all this stacking up? Elon Musk's money would help. That would do it.
He can tell them no. Is the answer.
I will say
we got this great movie, and it's only going to cost us $847 trillion zillion, but who cares? We'll get it back. He'll say no. Do it for $10 million or don't do it. There's a famous line, Samuel Goldwyn, the Goldwyn in Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, when people wanted to go on location to do things in the middle of L.A., for those who don't know Los Angeles, it's Griffith Park. It's where, among other things, the old original Batcave and the zoo and a bunch of other things are. And it's this big, huge rural tract in the middle of a big city. And Goldwyn said, quote, "A rock is a rock, a tree is a tree, shoot it in Griffith Park." So, he can put some financial discipline on them to begin with. Somebody's got to be able to say no to this stuff first. Then the creativity is another story. But
I think Nelson Peltz and others like him, the purpose for the proxy war is to choose who will be the next CEO. That's really where the power, I think, is going to be.
Yeah.
Cocho Dragon says, after reading Vash's review of Wish and listening to Know Who You Are for Moana, it is clear that Asha was meant to be something else other than an activist, even though I haven't seen it. But I personally believe Asha and Valentino deserved better than this. To be honest, I did want to like her, but Asha, this is not who you are. This is not who you know you are. I have an idea we can all fix her character development. Well, Cocho, I agree that were we in charge of Wish, we could have definitely fixed it. There's a lot to fix in that movie.
And can I just say that Cocho is awesome?
Yes, Cocho's fantastic, and I really appreciated the member spotlight interview you guys did. That was great. Rod Thunderheart says, how long can or will Bob the Weatherman be able to stick around? I honestly can't see him being around next summer. Nelson Peltz seems absolutely ravenous, wanting Disney to regain market share and getting back to profitability. I don't think he's going to leave early.
And the question when you say early is, if he gets thrown out as the boss, and if they make a deal to change things, will he say, okay, but you're still going to pay me the 5 years worth of consulting?
Oh, yeah.
Or will he say, pay me off and I'll go away and be done with it? He might just for spite want to.
I think. Did you see the way he looked when he was asking those difficult questions at the latest conference?
Watch his eye blink rate go up during those things.
Yeah, I don't think he's going anywhere. Final Monkey says, do you think Elon Musk can get a seat on the Disney board? Final Monkey, I don't think that Elon wants a seat on the Disney board.
Nah.
I mean, I could be surprised, but I think what he wants is to put people on the Disney board if he has enough interest in it. Elon is building rockets, though.
Final Monkey, if I asked you, would you rather go to Burbank or Mars, what would your answer be?
I've heard
the longer
Burbank
Burbank does what it does, the more we want to go to Mars. Me and my monkey, look at this. We've got two. How about that? Pro, why do you want Disney to get on the right track? You are so invested in this. Help me understand. Educate me, please, sir. Why do I want Disney to get back on the right track? Well, let me give you one reason for why I would want Disney to get back on the right track. Because I think the legacy of Walt Disney should not be put into the place that it currently is. I think that his hard work, his life's desire, is probably better if it's working to unite people and tell timeless tales. So for Walt, let's hope it gets on the right track. Gentlemen, do you disagree or agree?
No, my reason is real simple. I've got grandkids.
There you go.
And I want them to experience the joy and the wonder and the beauty of what was and can be again. Period.
That is a perfect answer. DJ IT Brian Watts says a lot of people seem to dislike Indiana Jones taking over Disney or taking over Dinosaur at Animal Kingdom. It's good at Disneyland, but no on Encanto. I don't think it has proven longevity. Use Jungle Book or Up instead. And yes, I would be up for both of those. If they do Up, though, they will need to theme that area, and I would hope bring in animals from southern South America, Chile and Argentina.
The simple reason why they keep talking about moving Indy in there is it's the same ride.
Yes.
It would take very, very little retooling as far as the track and the ride vehicles and the layout. It's all an exact duplicate of what's at Disneyland, only with different theming. So it's cheaper that way.
But perhaps cheaper is not the way that Disney should be looking at things
Maybe
today.
not, but at this stage it may be all they can look at things through because they're broke.
That's another good point. All right, folks, that is a wrap for Cues from You. It's also a wrap for our endeavor to explain entertainment and keep you ahead of the culture curve for this video. We hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, click the like button, share, subscribe. When you click it, you stick it to the algorithms. It's the notification bell. Drop a comment down below. Let us know your thoughts. Your mind matters. So tell us what's on it. And don't forget that if you're a member of the channel, be watching for the Genre Guys. They are doing another member-exclusive video, and based on the feedback, you all love those series of videos.
We are off to a forbidden planet any moment now, so join us by becoming a member.
There you go. Folks, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.
You're watching me because I am a troll, and for some silly reason fired up to start the show. You could all subscribe to Floral from Under a Rock because we're really cool and do some funny stuff.
Wilson, what are you doing?
I'm plugging our show, which is on Wednesdays at 9 p.m.
You
Eastern.
realize we're supposed to be celebrating Pro and 50K. I mean, I just did a monologue about it, and all these people are here and now watching us have this really awkward conversation.
Pro. Is he like a golfer or something?